Souse us therefore in the powdering tub of thy mercy,
that we may be tribes fit for the heavenly table.
Welcome, Meatsmiths. You are listening to a Meatsmith podcast.
Restoring husbandry to prosperity by means of the traditions of our fathers. This Farmstead Meatsmith production is made possible by you. If you like it, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating at a level you'd enjoy giving at. Your gift helps us increase the quality and quantity of all our free media education. Thank you, and happy harvesting. Hello, Meatsmiths. Thank you for joining us on another episode of a Meatsmith Harvest. Oh, we normally start with our thing, don't we? I totally
That's okay.
missed that boat. Do we know it by heart?
Nope. Well, I don't.
That's okay.
Building your home around the harvest and your recipes.
No.
I added that part.
You don't like recipes.
Yeah, well, you want to build them around the harvest.
Yeah.
Take the harvest and the ingredients presented thereby as cues
Right.
to guide the way you
restoring,
cook
yes. Restoring husbandry to prosperity
it.
around the traditions of our fathers.
Yes, that's good.
I didn't come up with it.
That's a quote from William Cobbett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when he's defining economy, he says it means household management,
Okay.
which I think in Greek, like nomia is, like the order or the law, actually.
Oikonomia.
Yeah. And part of that means house somewhere.
Which one, the oikoi or the onomia?
I don't know.
Elders say,
Yeah.
remember, this is your Christmas episode.
Oh,
So
right.
I have to remind people, we have classes that you can buy
Right.
for here in Tulsa. If you want to come and partake of some of these classes that you've been traveling to,
Yeah.
we're having them here locally in April and May of 2022. So please consider that on your Christmas as a Christmas option, gift giving option for family members, or even like our membership. I posted this thing that we've had for years. This kind of encompasses all the things that we do, and many of them can help support what we're doing with the education and everything. Especially while we don't have a butcher shop, and we don't have custom jobs right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a little plug.
April and May will have family pig classes, and these ones are the most in depth, and we take 3 days to harvest the fullest abundance of 2 pigs. And we keep them capped at 8 people. So it's not just a demo class. The sort of build is hands-on, and the hands-on part is you get to like touch the pig. No, it's I shoot the pig and I stick it, and then the students do everything else. The goal is to get people to be able to go home and do it on their own. And that is frequently the case. We have many, many students. We've got Laurel on watching now too. And actually, they're a great example of this because they took a family pig class.
Oh, okay.
The Holmeses, and they went back to their farm in Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And they started slaughtering, but they jumped into the deep end, big time, because their pigs are huge.
Oh.
They are gloriously enormous.
Oh, have they been posting pictures on the Meatsmith table?
It's so cool. It's the classic photo of like the gigantic beast and the human next to it, and yes, he did that. This amazing work.
Yeah.
So people do go
big
home
smile
and
on his face.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's such an achievement. It's truly remarkable.
Yeah.
And
cool.
so yeah, people do it. They take it and go back, and they're great classes.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to doing more because we have the infrastructure here. So
yeah.
to raise more animals is what I mean.
Yeah.
And the animals are the curriculum. Our only limitation to what kind of classes we can offer is what kind of animals we can raise. And so we can do it all out here. I'm looking forward to getting a small beef herd and doing beef classes more regularly out here.
Yeah.
So, and then the Meatsmith membership has just become a great archive of a bunch of videos describing all of these processes that's across all, many species, and a really active Facebook group that's part of it, where people are sharing their processes, which gives you that regional the insights that are particular to your region, because chances are we have someone there who's making ham in your climate, and you can connect with them and figure out how to do it, or some husbandry process that will help clear up something for you. And so just that network alone has been really great. It's unique because it's a group of people that are doing this on the domestic scale for a living, like earnestly, or almost, so usually those two things are separate. Like usually on the domestic scale, that's just like fun hobby farming. We've got expendable income. We're just going to do this. And then we're not really trying to make a living at it. And that's not the only people that are part of the Meatsmith membership, but it definitely attracts the people that are trying to do both, to raise animals on a sane human scale. And as a family business, to actually make a living doing it earnestly. Yeah. And so it's very unique in that way, because those people don't have the luxury of those labels that don't actually help very much. They need like practical, hyper-localized understanding of their place, their economy even. Yeah. And so just connecting those people, I think, helps a lot.
In fact, connecting people. Yeah, that's a big theme of these classes too. Like you drove out to Virginia, and one of our old Washingtonian students flew out from Washington.
Yes. Mr. Germano.
Yeah, and that was
so great.
So great to hear, just the continuity of our membership, or people that have followed us from the very beginning. So
yeah, it was very good to see him. He generously brought a lot of wine, as is his habit. That's what he does. He's just the bearer of wonderful gifts.
So come to a class, you might get some wine.
Yeah, you'd be lucky if Joe was there, that's for sure. I did meet a Greek scholar at one of my classes who could just mellifluously quote the Iliad and the first chapter of the Gospel of John in Greek.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. But anyway, William Cobbett had a lot of things straight in his brain.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
He's pulling little shreds of tradition.
Including how to cure bacon, keeping it free from rust. You don't want rust on your bacon. It's when you oversalt it.
Oh, yes.
It's not a big deal. Even Mrs. Beeton quotes William Cobbett.
Oh, do you want to read some of that?
He's an authority on bacon.
Okay.
And I take no little consolation that he wrote Cottage Economy, I think in 1833, and 100 years later, the slicer that I bought was made.
Oh.
Got a slicer that's from 1933.
Okay.
Anyway.
Hello, Facebook.
Oh, cool.
Members.
Bob is here.
From Texas?
And Laurel. No, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I have driven through Tennessee 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
Okay, so tell us. We're kind of meandering all over the place. Tell us about your travels.
Okay, what happened? November was the month of many traveling jobs. Every weekend I have been out of state. First, I moved out of Washington State, and then I did a class back in Washington State.
Yeah, that's a little ironic, or something. Yeah. Why did you do so much traveling?
It was because I don't have a butcher shop, so it was very much a practical thing. It was good though. I realized that, it used to be a certain kind of crisis every time I did a travel job. When our children were of a certain age, it was a special kind of crisis, but they're a little older. And we also don't have a lot of livestock right now, but I think it was less horrible when I left the farm this month than it has been in the past. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I had 2 boys that I just had to say, remember to do the poultry chores, and they did it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
You crossed the country. You kind of crisscrossed it.
I drove many times, and discovering that it's extremely empty.
Oh.
It's unbelievable how much space there is.
Yeah.
This part of the continent. And how much road we have built to connect all of this space. It's incredible. But the first class was in Husum, Washington. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that was great. That was a sheep harvest class.
Oh, right.
And so we slaughtered like 3, maybe 4 in the AM, and then in the PM we butchered about that many. 4. We cut and wrapped, and that was a big class. I think we had around 25 people, and it was great. We went out there I was able to. All of these classes were hosted by family farms. Obviously, small producers doing tricky things that only a family has the agility to achieve. Specifically, tricky agricultural things, grazing sheep in a forest, essentially. Slowly clearing the forest. But without clear cutting, without destroying the topsoil, just slowly doing it.
Yeah, that just clicked. Sheep in a forest.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Right.
Not sheep on a pasture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, he had other pastures, neighboring properties that he could use on occasion. But literally to grow meat in that context without, just destroying the topsoil or destroying the land, it's way too complex. There's not a single one-size-fits-all model for that. Which is kind of what I learned the whole time, I think, all month. It was really interesting to see how everyone is doing it. And they're all going towards the same goal, even if it's not explicitly defined. I think the same goal, the same end being the sustenance of the family and the due stewardship of the land.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's you're more agile. There's a lot more you can do. Anyway, so that was the first class, and that was great. Met a lot of people. As usual, we talked about all of the things pertaining to life and death and meaning, and how to braise lamb, like everything.
Yeah, you really go deep, like quickly with these people, because you only have 24 hours. I mean, not that much, but it feels like that much, probably. Like at least 12 to 16 hours. Like it's a full day. Yeah. And you are giving them every ounce of your attention, and they are giving each other, like everyone's on hyper, like, they're
all high functioning.
Yeah, everyone's in their 6th gear right away. Yeah. There's not very much like revving up. It's like, hey, we're here, and we're here to learn about all the things. Yeah. Not just the material causes, which is the sheep, but like you end up talking about all the meaningful things. Yeah. Because everyone there is always seeking authenticity and,
Yeah, the formal causes of things.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
And were most of those people from the Pacific Northwest, or were many of them?
Those did happen to be a lot of Pacific Northwesterners. Yeah. That particular class was. I think we had we did have someone from Texas, and a few from somewhere else. But yeah, definitely the vast majority was Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bite-sized class to do it all in one day, and it's all of these classes, they all had the element in common of being low tech. You know, like no butcher shops, no slaughter trucks. I didn't drive my slaughter truck. It was just a rental car.
Yeah.
Gambrels. And it was back in the old days, back when we used to do classes in every setting imaginable. You know, picnic tables
Chain
in
hoists.
the grass in a field. Like that's
Yeah.
just how we do it. And, you know, you find that it doesn't take that much more effort to still yield a product, a result that is exponentially, not just better in terms of nutrition and everything, but literally, objectively more beautiful, even out in the grass and everything. If your knives are sharp and you know why you're cutting the meat rather than just how, then you create beautiful things.
Yeah.
Really beautiful things.
Yeah. So then after
That's
after the Washington class, where did you go?
Then I went to come on, brain. I went to North Carolina.
It's all a blur. You were only home for like 5 days last month.
Oh my goodness.
Today's December 1st.
Yeah.
We're finally out of November, but yeah, you were only home a handful of days.
Yeah.
So it was like you were gone a week, home 2 days, gone a week, home
That's right.
2 days, gone 4 days,
Yeah.
back 3, and then gone 5 days.
Yes. Yeah, because driving out to Washington, that's a 3-day drive.
Yeah.
That really took a while.
Yeah. And once again, you were driving because, well, for multiple reasons, but the airlines are unpredictable and you needed to be there
Yeah.
at these events.
And we picked up the rest of our
That's right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, lots of reasons, but you drove. Okay, sorry. So where did you go after Washington?
After Washington, we were in, I went to North Carolina.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a full big class.
No, it was
Right?
very small. It was, in fact, no one. It was good. I went to Justin Rhodes' farm, and
That's right.
I did drive out there all in one day, and that
Oh, yeah.
was not good.
That was a little crazy.
That's where you know, I don't know. It's about 15 and a half hour drive if you do it all in a day from Oklahoma to North Carolina. And it's one of those things where you frequently become aware of yourself, and you're like, you realize, oh, I've been driving for 2 hours. And I didn't notice I was driving.
Yeah.
Because you're just doing it, and it's not safe. So I broke it up on the way home.
Yeah.
But yeah, drove through. It was interesting to experience the roads and the land. Honestly, it's so different because I have, just within the span of the month, I've crossed it, you know, from one end of the country to the other a couple times. So I've seen the difference, and the Rockies, the Cascades, the Sierra Nevada mountain ranges, like those mountains are so big that you can't see them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like they are the horizon.
Yeah.
And you're just gradually going up. You can see them from a distance on a clear day, but they're like, I don't know, they're continental in their size. They're just so big. You're not like, look, there's a mountain, you know? It's hard to describe. They're just huge.
Yeah.
Everything is bigger on the West Coast. All of the valleys, all of the plains, all of the mountains are exponentially bigger. And that's why it takes you so much longer to drive through Tennessee, because it is not that way. It is, especially Eastern Tennessee, especially, you know, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. It's all windy, and it's the Appalachians are all around you, like as far as the eye can see. You know, they're all over the place, but they're all little. And the Rhodes, it takes a much longer time to go anywhere. And I'm still not exactly sure where the Ozarks end and the Appalachians begin. It's kind of a, well, I guess, yeah, maybe at the Mississippi coming into Tennessee. But Tennessee is just pretty mountainous in the eastern sense of the word mountainous. But it's very craggy and it takes a while to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And dense, thick forest just
Yeah.
everywhere. And they do have a lot of conifer forest too, lots of pine.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we're used to with the firs. But yeah, it was good. I went to Justin Rhodes and filmed a pig slaughter class, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there wasn't no audience. It was just like delayed.
Cameras.
Yeah.
Yes, it was cameras. And it was good. I got to see his setup a little more. And it was neat to see what another family does on the land. He's grazing, he's got 7 acres and he's got 8 cows on it. Now they move them every single morning. And he has so it's a chore, it's a substantial little chore, that they've been doing for actually quite a while now. And they're reclaiming some pasture under forests. He pioneers the pigs and then he plants after them, and then he can put cows in. Basically, he runs cows, then sheep, then another group of cows, and the sheep are kind of this buffer between the heifers and the bull when he's in when the heifers are in heat, and because he's an amicable bull, he respects the electric fencing, and then chickens behind them. And so he's got kind of this string of paddocks that actually rotate through. And he does winter them. He puts them up on deep bedding in winter and gets them off the pasture for a certain amount of time. But it was just really amazing to see how much grazing can be accomplished when you're moving. And he's kind of focused on family groupings too. So he's got intact... He's got bovines, sheep, and pigs, and they can all reproduce there on his place. He's got boars and sows, rams and ewes, bulls and cows. A bull and cows.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And we did a podcast there.
That's right.
Also, he interviewed me for his podcast. And that was fun. And it was at the end of a day of killing a pig, cutting a pig. And so, I'm not sure how acute my verbalism was, but we did a podcast nonetheless at the end of that day.
Then what happened after North Carolina?
Then I went I went close to Arkansas at New Woodlands Farm with Mr. Steritz, and that was great. It's just fun to see Ted and to see his farm finally, and their house. Again, a family, a husband and wife and 3 lovely little children. And they have a house on 5 acres and then 160 acres, I think, or a little more, of Arkansas Ozark forest, where there's water everywhere, coming from the sky and bubbling up from the ground. He's got ponds, and he runs Maishan Kuni cross pigs in the forest. So they have this particular efficiency to them. They are lard pigs. And it's neat to see that the efficiency that lard pigs give you, because when you go for the full-size pig with the really fast growth rate route, you are constantly pursued by that pig's need for food. Like you are given that pig feed all the time, just so it can maintain condition and health. It's just buckets and buckets. But when you have these little lardies, they take longer to grow and they're smaller in their frame, but it opens up a huge spectrum of flexibility and forgiveness in your supply of feed.
Okay.
So you could feed them hay and a smaller amount of concentrated, protein in the form of grain or soy or peas or something. And both of those things could vary over time through drought or alterations in availability or anything. And you could just let them graze a larger paddock in the woods and they'd still be okay. That's the cool efficiency. All of like the particular method that we used to call pannage, Pannage, grazing pigs in the forest, that works with lard pigs, lard typey pigs. They just have this efficiency where, and it's a metabolic efficiency. They turn, quote unquote, less quality forage into pig fat, mainly, in a very efficient way. And so it's neat to see Ted doing that in the forest out there, grazing those guys. And again, it's all family groups. He's got boars and sows, and they're all doing their thing in the woods. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he's building a shop out there. He's developing a charcuterie business and with family also.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. That was a pig slaughter class that we did. We got a lot of people, again, even just from the state of Arkansas, to attend that big long day. And I got to make slaughter day fry. And we didn't have cream, so I thickened the sauce with blood.
Oh boy!
Because we did catch blood from the pigs, and that was satisfying.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
And that turned out well.
It did. It worked very well.
That's cool.
We cooked it over, a wood fire in a giant cast iron.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun.
That's neat. Yeah, the neat thing about these classes is, you can carry in your brain a general template for how you want the day to go, but there's always variables that spring up, and you are so good at being quick to think on your feet and adjust. And then it becomes a whole new class because you sort of rolled with the punches and, there's no cream. Okay, well, we have blood. So that's going to be, and, there's a lot of other classes haven't experienced that. So
it does help that that's how we started doing classes. And the refinement and the pattern was only something that came much later.
That was more for our sanity.
Yeah. Like years in. But I was surprised at my, I really thought I was getting super old and I needed everything to be like pretty regimented and the same, but this worked out. It was fine. It wasn't, none of these classes I would describe as stressful.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
Maybe exhausting?
Yeah, definitely exhausting.
But not stressful.
But that's just my temperament.
Yeah.
This is temperamentally. Because I try. I have to exert a lot of effort to speak words, which is weird to say on a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's true. And the tricky thing is, especially for people that have a similar temperament like me, is you don't know when you're exhausted. You're either, your conscientiousness is kind of motivating you, to keep doing a really good job, or your perfectionism, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you this energy to just keep going.
Yeah.
But at those times, you could be depleting yourself in ways you're kind of like, you're immune to. You don't feel it, but you are depleting yourself.
Yeah.
And so instead of just responding to like the feeling of tiredness, you actually have to make rest a discipline and decide, okay, in the middle of the day, I'm going to break away and drink water. Just these very basic things.
Yeah.
Very basic. And because if I don't, I will be dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I will be 6 hours, I'll just be sick to my stomach for basically the whole next day. And so it's actually a discipline to rest in those situations. Because when even though you don't feel it, speaking, conversing, talking, especially teaching, because if you're earnestly trying to convey to people a thing that you want them to be able to then go and do later, you're using brain muscles. trying to see where they're coming from and listening very intently.
Yeah.
So it gets, But I didn't have that. I was good. I did well.
The hunt is up.
How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing? Or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do? Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
Sorry, I tried to WD-40 that chair before you said
yeah.
It just didn't really work.
It's a little noisy.
I noticed at the last podcast after listening to it that our sound is quite bad. Well, I'll just say it's not excellent.
Yeah.
The mic is okay. It's helping, but
I know, we're working on it.
I know.
Bob said he liked the butcher shop background better than this one. It's like, I know, Bob.
We did too.
I know. You too.
We need to fill this place with some furniture and.
Yeah, and we're building the shop. I mean, not really, but I just got home, so
You are this month.
I'm gonna start building the shop.
Although now it's like inching into Christmas, so that'll take some.
It'll take some, but yeah.
You're getting pigs. There's
I'm
a few
gonna
things
pick up pigs on Monday.
And you're trying to source the right feed, which is the tricky thing out here.
Yes.
We're just new at it, so we don't know what we're doing. If you're in Oklahoma or Texas or Missouri, first of all, thank you so much for helping us find a raw milk source. I did.
Oh, yeah.
Through this podcast, mm-hmm. There was several people that really helped us find the right raw milk source. So here's another one. Good organic feed. Mm-hmm. That's fresh. I guess it doesn't even have to be organic, just not GMO, not soy, all that stuff. So, but we'd even be willing to drive out of state to pick it up. We were spoiled back in Washington with our scratch and pack feed, and we're just trying to find the right. Anyway, that's a tangent, but you're doing all that kind of stuff right now.
Yeah, it is weird to not have any connections.
Yeah,
you kind of stare at the void, and you're like, I have to materialize many tons of a thing in that void. Yeah. And I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
So, I look forward to networking with more local producers, and I'm going to try to use buying wiener pigs as a way to do that. Ask around and see what people are using for feed.
Yeah.
Because I am open to anything that fits our management here. And I think in the future it would make more sense for us to avail ourselves of that particularly efficient lard pig metabolism, because we do have acorns all over the ground.
You're right. Maybe we should go that route.
I was just reading the book at the suggestion of Ted again, on what has been commonly used as pig feed in this region, and you can find accounts of it. And there's a book that details it, and it's persimmon and mulberry trees. Which is weird. You think, it's a lot of carbs and make some fat little pigs. But they, once they're mature, they are so prolific, those trees.
What book was this from?
I can't remember what it's called, and I didn't bring it up here.
You wrote it down.
Russell,
I thought you'd have it on.
The author was Russell. It's an older one, so he's kind of making this impassioned plea for people to use trees as crops, because I get the impression he's a guy who he discovered. There we go. J. Russell Smith.
Yeah.
J. Russell Smith is the author.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
And it's a book on using trees for many crops, for animals and for humans. And it's just based on a very simple reality. Some trees are so prolific. It's just buckets and buckets and buckets that if managed in a forest setting, they produce way more than a cornfield, or at least compete with, our current obsession with corn and soy production.
Okay.
Chestnut trees one tree can produce several hundred pounds of chestnuts when it's, and you don't have to harvest it.
That's true. Yeah.
There, you eliminate all of that if you can run pigs in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, chestnuts, acorns, mulberries, persimmons. It's pretty neat.
Okay.
Those are very prolific trees out here.
I mean, that would run in line with being docile to what's available and what grows in your region, and
yeah, pecans for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
We live across the road from a gigantic pecan, over 1,000 acres pecan farm, and they've got huge forests of the native pecan and very huge mature trees. They're enormous, really big, and also of cultivated ones. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I want to grow pecans.
So actually, there's one other place that you went to, but before we talk about that, as you were already talking, I'm picking up on a theme, and let me know if I'm reading you right or if I'm pulling this out of nowhere. But the family farm has been speaking to you, I think, this past month. The principle or the ideal, the Platonic form, the family farm. I don't know, it just seems to be like amidst all your traveling.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's, I don't know, the thing to talk about or flesh out or strive for amongst ourselves as the answer.
I think it is. Yeah. And I started thinking about it when, in my tired brain, when I was doing the podcast with Justine. Rhodes, he asked me something like, what do you think would be the result if industrial meat production just proceeded apace, and if they started isolating, compounds in the lab and started making meatless meat, and that actually really started being produced, and we actually went away from animal protein altogether? What is the end goal of that? And in my tired brain, my true thought came out, and it sort of surprised me, but immediately I was like, oh, sterilization. They don't want people to have babies anymore.
Yeah.
And it seems weird, but I do actually believe that, because, you're gonna need the animal protein to be fully healthy. And, your reproductive system, it should be factored into the idea of your bodily health. You're going to need those fats and those.
We've been taught to not think that that's part of bodily health.
Yeah, it's just so clear. But I think if there is a horrible, nefarious strategy behind all of that, and its ugliness proves to me that there must be, then I think it is just to sterilize everybody. Because the assumption is that human life is the problem.
Yeah.
That's the assumption. Yeah. We are the cause of all the evils. And therefore the solution is less humans. And I think, I've always been directly opposed to that, but it was so great to go to these farms and see how I think actually the most pragmatic and earnestly the accurate solution to ecological degradation is the family, is the family farm, like undiluted. Now, you can still be a family and use terrible techniques and processes to grow food and use toxins and everything and monocrops and do bad things. So I guess what I mean by family farm is food production on a domestic scale. So oriented towards first the subsistence of the family, serving the family's material needs, that individual family.
Yeah.
Sort of like, the cobbler being able to put shoes on his kids.
Yeah.
That, if we did that, I think that is the ecological strategy that will work. And I think that, so all that to say, we need to have babies.
It's the ecological strategy. It's the moral strategy. It's the digestive strategy, or like health-wise. It's environmental. It's like on a number of levels.
I think so, and I think
multi-generational.
Yeah. It's a huge idea.
Yeah.
It's so huge that we all kind of already know it. I think it's sort of like already the background color to the whole portrait that is human life. And our experience of it. That's why it's hard to make it higher resolution. But to get to the last class that I did, it was fun to talk to Daniel Griffith. He's with the Robinia Institute in Virginia, and we did a beef slaughter class. He's got about 300 acres out there in Virginia, and they just acquired it, and it's beautiful. He lives there also with his wife and his young children, and his parents happen to be on the property also, which is is a good thing. And they were able to, through just amazing turn of events, acquire this property, and they are surrounded by very old homesteads that have been in the same families since King George. So these are pre-United States holdings.
Wow.
And it's truly remarkable. It's really amazing because he's around these properties surrounding their farm. They've been in the same family successively since King George.
That's crazy.
Like some of them are royal land grants, and have been the same family, except for this generation.
Oh,
it's gonna end.
Oh no.
And I asked him this directly, like, so are our generation, are they going to inherit? And he's like, no. So he's poised to try to, hopefully if he can, purchase these properties and incorporate them into a multi-generational, familial,
and is it
ecological
because our
farm.
Generation is just, we don't want it? Like they're
Well, I
abandoning
just think
or?
it's the same, the call of the cities, I don't know, of the comforts of modern life. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, okay.
In any case, it's a failure to transmit.
Yeah.
It is a failure. It's not just like, it's another tradition. It's another way to live. The breaking with the previous generation, in and of itself, just as a good in itself, I feel like that's the heart of what a revolution is, and at best. But it's also like the opposite of tradition. It's the opposite, because in Latin, tradition is a verb, and it's literally that thing which you hand down, and we receive customs, tradition, knowledge from our fathers, from our parents.
It's kind of like what we were talking about last time. It's a failure to transmit on the parental side, on the paternal side, and then it's a failure to receive on the children's side, and we both mess up. We
did. Yeah, it's on the children's side, it is impiety.
Sure. Yeah.
And just the fact that that word pious pretty much is only a negative term in modern parlance. It means uptight and moralistic and puritanical, or too moral, too much religion or whatever, is proof to how much we do not understand that being receptive to the previous generation is actually a matter of justice.
Yeah.
It's a matter of gratitude, rendering to your parents or even your nation what the gratitude, the thanks, the honor that it is owed, just out of pure justice. And so when we, and it's on a very basic level. If you received a life, that would be a benefit.
It is a positive.
It's a positive.
Yeah.
It's a net gain for you in the end. So piety is warranted there.
Yeah.
Talking with Daniel, it was great. All of these people are so thoughtful. I just can't believe how deep they're diving into the project of growing food and raising their families. I mean, there's just no lack of depth and earnestness going on. It's really remarkable. But Daniel was talking about how he's going to, he consults a lot and evaluates land and helps people understand where their land is, how it could be increased, the fertility could be increased, the topsoil could be increased, how to manage it to achieve that end. And he just threw off, he was just kind of thinking in the moment. I didn't get the impression that this was actually what he was going to do, but he's kind of been around the block, looking at different methods, different things that are put forward as, well, here's what you need to do with your land, and we've all experienced this, right? We've been in it for 10 years, and I feel like we get, when we first started out, it was the permaculture thing. And these terms quickly become slogans. They quickly become marketable labels, which by the nature of our economy and the way the world works, they immediately become divested of meaning, and they become something that gives you, the consumer, the permission to abdicate part of your responsibility for understanding the thing to the label. Like that's what organic food is, It's like you don't actually have to know anything about carrots. If it's organic, you can just buy it and not think about it. So it's a permission to not involve yourself in the process. But to be okay about it. So anyway, I feel like that's just the characteristic of any label that can be capitalized upon. And that's just the way it tends to work. So there's organic, and then there's the permaculture thing.
Biodynamic.
Yes, and we met many, armchair permaculturalists, I like to call them, that, they cultivate the digital farm much more than the... And so we met a lot of those, and it's like, oh, okay. And then there's, biodynamics, which gets some weird pagan stuff in there. And then there's...
we'll talk about that too, yeah.
And then there's, regenerative farming. It's mob grazing. It's not quite mob grazing. It's holistic plant management. And we get into, again, all these labels, and we're constantly trying to grasp at the thing to define the tool that will fix the problem.
Yeah.
And enterprising minds immediately seize upon the label of that tool and market it. And not all for ill. I mean, hopefully if the movement is generally tending towards not destroying the land, then we'll have a net gain in the end, I guess. But, you get around the block. And when I think about the one thing that over these classes has been consistent, and even over the past 10 years, the thing that has been consistent, the thing that I've seen that actually, like when I go to a place and I see, oh, these pastures are lovely, or they're not, but, you see things that are working. The stable element is the family. That's the thing. And it was so interesting because, you know, someone like Daniel has been in it, particularly in a consulting role, much longer than I have. And he was just kind of suggesting off the cuff that to regenerate, you know, this entire huge coal mine, which they have to do after they're done mining the coal, we should possibly just put families on it and see what they do.
It sounds so simple.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
duh.
I know. And at the same, you know, because you could do massive ecological endeavors.
Right.
You could use, you know, just as much, you know, oil and fuel to rebuild the mountain you destroyed as you did to destroy it. Or, you know, you could do crazy things, or you could do the subsidiarity move. You could actually break up the problem into bite-sized segments, specifically homesteads, the size of a homestead, and get people on there. And then you have a family carving out their sustenance on a small piece of this much larger puzzle. And you get enough of those, you've completed the puzzle. And I just thought that was so insightful. And I think that we tend to have a low resolution image of how to fix these things. Yeah. And we tend to go to broad, sweeping tools or methods that we always run into the inevitable problem of the exceptions to the rule. You know, it's like you make a general principle about, well, this is how you build topsoil. And you're always going to hit exceptions because of the infinite diversity of climates and soils and pH and everything. And so how do you treat that infinite diversity that just resists a universalizing absolute principle, apart from the most general principle, which is steward the land for the good of human life and all life? You know, how do you, that can be your overarching principle. But the way you actually implement that is going to be in the family. Yeah. And I think that is actually how the universe is ordered. I think that's an ecological principle. Because the essential unit of society, the irreducible unit, is the family. And the family is part of the natural order. We're not just this disembodied mind imposed upon this natural order. We're actually part of it. And so if we do our nature, which is family, I think we will have unexpected exponential benefits that we did not anticipate, just like you do anytime you follow the nature of a thing. Anyway,
that's beautiful.
That was one of the things that was just really struck me.
Well, and Mr. Griffith, he's the gentleman that you interviewed you, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right before you left on all this traveling, and I think we recorded that, and that ended up on YouTube. So you can get to know him on that episode. And his story personally, like I'd love to have him on this podcast if we could ever get our act together and get some guests on here. He has his own story, so maybe he'll tell it in full someday, which I'd love to do. But in general, he, like many of us, has kind of a health background that was remedied by not just healthy food, but specifically in the context of a family on a specific land. Like that healed, saved him, whatever you want to call it.
Did.
And now he's a functioning, more than functioning, you know, he's helping the world again and his communities and family and all that. But something you said reminded me of, it's almost like it's kind of a low bar now to say we're part of nature. Like, duh, of course we are. We are actually, to speak kind of technically, we are a composite.
Yes.
I was just hearing this on a podcast I was listening to last night, and the human being represents, it is a summation of all of the created order. We're like smack dab in the middle of the angelic realm, which is pure spirit,
Yeah.
which we participate in.
Having a soul.
We have a spirit, we have a soul. And the material world, so rocks, birds, vegetables, like we have all of those elements too.
Yeah.
And and some people take that and they think, well, it's like, it's all about us now. But that's not it. It's more of the human person is a representation of the entire created order. Mm-hmm. So you could do whole doctrinal theses on that idea, but we can't just say that we're not a part of it, or at the very worst, like, or the very most, well, we're part of nature. Like nature is going to be saved by our stewardship, you know, and we need to make sure that we are forming ourselves correctly if we're going to do that well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's because you have to regard as part of nature these two components that we bring to the game. And that is our intellect and our free will. Yeah. We're the only ones that have that absolutely, well, is absolute such an absolute term. the freedom of our will. I mean, it's
well, the angels had that too, but
yeah, but that's the thing. That's the particular powers, I think, of our soul that we bring to bear in the natural order. That is utterly unique. Yeah. And that's what we experience when we raise animals. And that is why you can actually say that there is a way to raise a pig and 1,000 ways not to. Mm-hmm. And the way to raise a pig is in accord with its nature. Because a pig will always do what pigs do. Yeah. They are utterly obedient to their nature. They do not violate it. They will always be piggy. You can predict with a very high degree of accuracy what a pig will do from moment to moment. If you take the time to understand the pig and its habits, you get to actually see what its nature is, what we used to call the pig's soul, the principle of a pig, and how it acts and how its nature is best nourished by the land and fulfilled in its harvest. Whereas with humans, you can't, propagandists will disagree, but in the end, you can't predict with 100% certainty whether or not a human will choose A or B. It's not possible. Yeah. And that the absolute, again, in quotes, I don't know if it's absolute, but the freedom of the will is truly a different thing.
You're trying to emphasize this. That's why you keep saying absolute.
Yes, it is. It's an emphatic term. So all that does, I think we miss the mark if we think that makes us, the coercive tyrants of nature. That would be the bad example. But it actually just means that everything is our fault. Everything. So whatever bad thing happens on the natural order. So in that sense, you could almost say we are the cause of all evil. We are, because of this freedom that we have. That we can actually act inhuman. We can actually deny our nature, which is crazy. But that's how free our will is. And that's how we can allow ourselves to be deceived by not being docile to our own nature. But
I'm feeling the need to put a little asterisk on what you just said about the pig being a pig and the pig never acting out and being other than itself. Yeah. And I would say the exception, and I say that word intentionally, would be like if a pig is sick, or if a pig has a genetic mutation, or like I've heard of all, you hear about animals, pigs. Or even animals outside of farm world, but they'll do things outside of natural law, but it's because there's an exception there. Yeah. They're clearly not acting as they ought. And there's a reason there. But like every lawyer worth his salt will tell you that exceptions make bad law. Yeah. So
they prove the rule.
Yeah, we don't order an entire race or species or whatever according to the exceptions, because those exceptions are clearly due to an abnormality that is of a lesser order.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That will result in the death of the pig.
Yeah.
Eventually. Or its inability to reproduce
or,
itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And you can even locate a lot of those things in human maldeed.
Yeah.
You can locate a lot of them there.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you're starting to touch on natural law, and I was trying to structure how just thoughts, I'm weaving together all these ideas that have come across. I've been on the phone with you the last month. Like, how did it go? Like, what was it like? What'd you learn? What people learn?
Yeah.
And so I'm like jotting things down on my notes, so I was trying to like make it logical.
Yeah.
In the 20 minutes before we started recording, and then so I was coming up with my own theme of like on one hand we're finding that the family unit is so pivotal, and for me the way that I was arriving there was wanting to make more clear language between natural law and maybe naturalism, because at least for me that was a distinction that is very easy to ignore at your own peril. And you may think that you're following a natural law, but you're falling into a naturalism, and then there's just a difference there. So I wondered if we could flesh that out a little bit. But like using the family unit is such a good lens to always come back to and like kind of judge ourselves by, I guess, in a way. Well, again, think of possibly going Meatsmith this Christmas and getting some class tickets for you or for a loved one as a gift, or even our membership, joining our membership if you want some continued education, if you think someone might want some continued education. The access to Brandon is like pretty much consistent. You check in on the Meatsmith table every few days and answer all the questions that are there.
Well, we have live chats too every month. We got one this Saturday.
So.
This conversation will be continued in a forthcoming Part 2 episode. Thanks for listening, and peace be with you.